Good morning, everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talks, Jack and Keith's Weekend Playbook. We hope everybody had a great 4th of July celebrating this country's 250th birthday. And with that, I want to welcome in a man who was here for that wonderful signing of the Declaration of Independence, my co-host, Boxing Hall of Fame writer and Michael Spake's biographer, Jack Hirsch. How are you, Jack?
Hey, good morning, Keith.
Hope you enjoyed your 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Anyway, it was a great weekend, full of sports. We're going to get to some. We're going to start with some soccer because, listen, I'm not a soccer fan, but I don't know how you can't be a fan of this tournament. It's been amazing, Jack. Two more great matches yesterday with England and Mexico, Norway. I think stunningly continuing on in this World Cup. Two big matches tonight, and also a big story that we have to talk about involving the USA, which has brought up a lot of controversy. So let's stay with the action first. You had talked yesterday on the Roundtable show on the McGrath Podcast Network about the disadvantage England had and other teams had going to I'm trying to remember what they call it.
Mexico City, the high altitude.
Yeah. They call their stadium the Aztec, something like that. They hadn't lost there in like 68 matches. I was looking at some of this information after you talked about it. They do seem to have quite an advantage, but England persevered yesterday, and they moved on for the first time in, 26 or 28 years to this point of the tournament. So kudos to the English and kudos to Norway, my kind of favorite team, the best fans that I've seen here. And those are a lot of great fans, the Norway fans. What are your thoughts on yesterday?
Oh, no, all the fans are great. I don't want to say any one group of fans is.
I just said they're my favorite. Yeah. They're my favorite fans. That's all.
Well, yeah, you feel safer when you go to Norway, Keith. I mean, you're walking around Norway. There's no language barrier as opposed to you walking around Mexico. You go in the heart of Mexico.
Listen,
you might have a language difficulty, but Norway, there you're type, people there. And then the UK might be a little too rough for you. They have some ruffians there.
There's a language barrier for me if I'm going to the U.S. Embassy here in the U.S. because I don't speak well any language, including the English. So
I mean, what's going on now with the World Cup is why they should have it every 2 years instead of every 4 years. Countries shouldn't wait every 4 years to try to get vindication to come back because it's just too long a period of time. But I with that said, I mean, this tournament, I think, has garnered more attention than past World Cup tournaments as far as the average in the United States, correct, as far as the average sports fan watching it. We're starting to get into it, pretty early in the tournament. And now, of course, in the round of 16, teams have advanced to the round of 8. And yesterday was a reflection of the tournament. The last game, England upsetting Mexico. Mexico kept coming back. It was, just a thriller. England having to play with a man down, and hold off Mexico to get the victory. And then in the game before that, Brazil, which has been a traditional World Cup power, they just had nothing there against Norway. I mean, it's no score. First half, they have a penalty kick. They failed to convert the kick. Then another time, they seem to have a wide open goal. They don't capitalize. They should have been up 2-0, Brazil. Yet it's 0-0. And then Norway scores, on a great header. And then they score another goal. And then Brazil had, that their late goal with the extra time was practically ran out. I mean, it gave them a tiny glimmer of hope at the end, but they hardly had any time left. So Norway beats them. Norway advances. And we discussed yesterday, Keith, are there any true Cinderella teams maybe left in the tournament? We both thought the biggest Cinderella team could conceivably turn out to be the USA. But you mentioned Norway as well. But I think they're the two true Cinderella teams that are left. But we'll see with the United States, who plays tonight against Belgium, whether they survive or not.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. USA against Belgium, and another really good matchup on the other side with who's playing Portugal and Spain as well on the other side of the bracket there. So, and
It's a
the
shame.
US,
Two good teams, and one of them has to go.
yeah, yeah, and US would play the winner of that, obviously, if they should move on. And big news for them. Balogun, I guess is how you say probably the USA's best player, at least their best scorer, as we know, was given a somewhat controversial red card in their last match. And first of all, the whole system in the World Cup or in soccer in general, that there's no appeal system is crazy. And it took a call from the president of the United States to the head of FIFA to say, you guys need to kind of look at this. And they overturned the red card, which is kind of something they don't do. And there's a lot of controversy about the fact that he'll be playing today against Belgium.
A lot. Look, I know there's big controversy because Donald Trump called up the head of FIFA, who's his buddy. And we don't know what was exactly said in the conversation, but sometimes words don't have to be said. Donald Trump makes the call and says, please reconsider this, okay? Please reconsider it. And that's basically like getting the message across, look, I want you to overturn this. And they overturned it, but it was the correct decision, but for the wrong reasons, okay? The perception is terrible that it's a call from a world leader of the only host country left that's hosting, these matches. And it left a bad taste in people's mouth. But look, I'm all for the soccer being really strict, and I praised it for being strict. But there's a such thing as going overboard. Can you imagine the NBA Finals? They took a review, and when Wemby kind of threw Brunson to the ground, and he didn't throw him to the ground heavily. He kind of like turned them. And can you imagine the NBA says, okay, Wemby, you're suspended for the rest of the playoffs? That would have been unthinkable. Even as Knicks fans would have done a double take. And even Knicks fans would have said, we'll take it, but, it's not the fairest thing.
You know what, though? The NBA at least has a system in place where you can appeal something. If you were to get a flagrant 2 or something, and or accumulate enough flagrants where you'd get suspended for a game or however long, you could at least appeal that. Here, there's no appeal system. That's what needs to change to me. Mistakes get made, right? In real time, in the heat of the moment, mistakes get made. There should be a way to change it afterwards, and there isn't. The president should
have a hidden rule. FIFA went to the books, and they have this hidden rule that they dusted off, and they brought up as justification to bring Balogun back. And look, it was the right decision, when all is, said and done. But as far as, Belgium goes, you get the feeling that this is in Belgium's head now. Did you hear what their coach said? Well, if the USA wins, it's going to be tarnished. Why even talk like that? This reminds me of when Willis Reed came limping out against the Lakers. It was in the Lakers' heads. They're looking, to Belgium, it should be play your best players. We don't care. Let's be focused. Instead, Belgium is complaining about this. My question to Belgium is this the way you want to win? You want the USA on a very controversial decision not to have their best player suspended? So my thing is this how you really want to achieve victory? And some of these red card suspensions, it's not the most flagrant of fouls. It's not like you turned around and punched someone in the face. Come on.
You can also turn that argument around, and I'm not making it for myself. I agree with you, by the way. I want to beat teams at full strength all the time. As a fan, right, I never root for guys to get hurt or suspended so I don't have to face them.
Yeah.
I want to face teams at their best so I don't have to listen to people say, well, you didn't beat the best. On the other side of this, though, if you're the U.S., if they go on and win this game or even more games, there's always going to be those people out there going to say, yeah, but you needed extra help extra rules, or not extra rules, but you had to go look for loopholes to get your best player back in here when he was suspended. And I don't like that either, because there's going to be those comments made as well. But again, to me, there's got to be some kind of appeal process. And I know that CA is saying that there was some precedent with Ronaldo, which I don't know what it is. You can certainly explain it to me if you want. CA, I just don't know what it is, quite frankly. I'll be quite honest. But you shouldn't have to have outside people getting involved, making a phone call to their buddies to try to get something changed. So, because without that phone call, this would not have happened. Right?
Yeah, Gianni Infantino and Trump are very close. He's the head of FIFA. And obviously, if Trump doesn't make the call, it doesn't get done. And Trump's associates, led by Andrew Giuliani, mayor, former mayor of New York, Rudy Giuliani's son, who's involved, with the national soccer team. They got together, they talked, and Trump gave them an order finally. Okay, you guys figure out a way to get this done. And they made some calls, and obviously the major part of it was Donald Trump himself making a phone call. And Infantino couldn't say no to Trump because they're so close. They're so close, in every way, shape, and form. And that's how it got done, realistically. But again, it was the right decision made for the wrong reasons.
Yeah,
okay?
It's a bad look for soccer.
But I'll tell you this. If Balogun gets the winning goal or something like that, and the USA wins by, let's say they win by 1 goal, he gets the winning goal, it's just going to flare up a little. But you want to know something? It's going to be forgotten when all is said and done. If you can't beat the USA, it's only one more player. One player more. Come on, give me a break. It's not like, Michael Jordan or LeBron James was suspended from their team, and now you're bringing them back. The game, soccer's a little too strict sometimes, but it's what it is.
It is what it is. And, again, we talked to, it's funny that they're strict about some of this stuff, but some of the nonsense that goes on in the field. Again, I've enjoyed this tournament, but you and I talked about it. Well, we all talked about it a little bit yesterday. It's not even the flopping that they do. It's the histrionics that go on after they're laying on the ground. It gets a little old after a while.
But who you're picking tonight, Keith, with this suspension lifted?
I'm certainly not going to pick against you. I'm certainly not going to pick against the USA tonight. So we'll certainly be rooting for them. And I like Spain to beat Portugal. I think Portugal's struggled. They're a good team, but Ronaldo's he said this is his last World Cup.
Struggled early in this tournament. They look less than invincible. They had a tie
with Capo Verde, if I remember right. Spain did. So, yes, they haven't played great. I think they played better as it's gone on. This should be probably a close match, but I think Spain ekes it out in Ronaldo's last World Cup game, potentially. So,
that's the one thing about the World Cup. It's sad to watch these great players maybe end their career on the big stage with a defeat, but it's what it is. Only one country survives at the end of the tournament. There's only one winner, so it's tough.
He's talking about England not being an underdog.
Yeah, I think England was the underdog playing in Mexico.
Yeah, again, betting underdog, no, they were not. But there was certainly some disadvantages for England yesterday because we talked about the altitude, we talked about the home crowd, and they hadn't lost a game there.
Most people thought Mexico was going to win the game. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, that's a fun match. Tomorrow, since we're not going to be on, we have 2 more games tomorrow as well. Argentina plays Egypt and Switzerland plays Colombia. I like Argentina. I think Argentina is going to get to the final with France myself. And I like Colombia to beat Switzerland as well. What are your thoughts on those?
I'm on board with that. I'm on board. I mean, Egypt, when you talk about a Cinderella team, I mean, before you know it could wind up being Egypt.
It could. Yeah, we mentioned Egypt yesterday too, as a underdog a bit.
You know what it is? We're so used to the traditional world powers in soccer. Like Brazil that got eliminated, Argentina, France. I I don't want to say it would be better, be the World Cup, if one of the other, if a team like England, who's had so much heartbreak in World Cups, tournament after tournament, that's gone on obviously for decades.
Yeah, 60 years.
That would be pretty good for soccer. You think about England, the drought that would be similar to the Knicks here in New York, what would be going on in the UK if they actually won the World Cup, because it's been, soccer's enormously popular in England. I mean, it's arguably more popular in England than in any other country with all their, teams in interleague play.
Historically great countries in soccer are necessarily going to win every year after year, because the game exploded worldwide because of Pele and guys that have followed him, obviously Messi now, and so these other countries get better, just like in basketball. The U.S. doesn't dominate in basketball the way they used to, because
but it changes. Germany, that was a world power, so they're not won anymore. They went out timidly in this tournament. And it's like you mentioned basketball. It's like when the USA used to completely dominate. They didn't even have to show up hardly to practice, like with the Dream Team. They'd be out playing golf, and they could just show up. They could sleepwalk through the tournament, through the Olympics. And it was that way in soccer. Certain countries was so dominant, but now I think it's even up on the, on the world stage. I mean, little countries could pull massive upsets. Little countries that have gotten eliminated, like Senegal and so on, who are very, very competitive in this.
A lot of these first-time countries were competitive.
Exactly.
Cape Verde and some others as well played very, very well.
And they're not going away. That's what makes it fun. But it shouldn't be every 4 years. I want to see this every 2 years.
I still think to me, you lose something of the. It's not quite as special.
2 years is a long time, Chief. 2 years is a long time. You don't lose anything in 2 years. You want to know something, Keith? If the Super Bowl was played once every 4 years, you would have been good with it.
No, I wouldn't.
Different. Every year,
it's apples and oranges. We're not talking about the same kind of thing, I don't think. In my mind, that's not the same thing. Although the Ryder Cup is played every 2 years, and it's one of the biggest events.
You know what it is too, Keith? You notice this. Unfortunately, you have Olympic soccer. It doesn't have nearly the prestige that the World Cup has. Same thing in certain other sports. You take like tennis. If you gave a great tennis player a chance, and I'm only mentioning tennis now because Wimbledon is going on, you could either win Wimbledon or an Olympic gold medal. Which one do you want? And if that player's neither one before, they pick Wimbledon.
I would say the same thing. Yeah, I agree. I would play the same thing about golf. I mean, that's nice, but they're not going to take, Olympic gold medal over a Masters championship. So, so I get it.
Unless you've had a few Masters championships you've won, like Novak Djokovic, he won so many major tournaments, but it fared very poorly in the Olympics. In the last Olympics, he won a gold medal because, then it meant a lot. Finally get over the top and win something you haven't been successful at. When you can afford to give one back, you kind of do it. Same thing, listen, the World Baseball Classic.
Same thing.
I was rooting for the USA a few years ago, so Mike Trout could win a title. For some reason, I found myself rooting for Mike Trout. The USA came up short, but in all honesty, you win the World Baseball Classic, but you've never went to the World Series in Major League Baseball. It's hollow. You don't look at yourself as winning. You win if you haven't won an NBA championship, you take Carmelo Anthony. He's never gone to the finals. Never gone to the finals in his great NBA career. Yep. But he's won 3 Olympic gold medals. And he's won an NCAA tournament. Do you give it back? I mean, what means more?
This is a good point, too, that CA brings up, that Norway is mostly made up of Norwegians. All these teams are, just a mismatch of, countries. It's a really a lot of patriotism
Yeah.
on some of these countries because half of them are from other countries. You know, I don't think these the restrictions or the rules that allow people to play for certain countries were in play decades ago when Brazil was dominating. Or
something has to be done. I didn't like it with the concept, even with the Olympics, and they're doing it with soccer. I'll give you an example. If I'm American born, okay, I like distance running. I wasn't good enough to even give it a thought, qualify for the Olympics, let's say in the marathon.
yeah,
But let's say I was on the cusp of maybe making the Olympic team. And I'm just giving an example of the sport in the marathon. But you get a great distance runners from Kenya, Ethiopia, for example, who weren't quite good enough to make their Olympic team, but they're better than I am, actually. And they get American citizenship at the age of 22. I mean, and I've been born and I've lived here my whole life. It's unfair. It is very unfair.
I don't remember the sport, but we had American women win a gold medal for China. So I don't get.
Well, but that's unfair.
I agree.
Okay, to deprive someone else who's in that country.
Yeah.
But I don't blame the athletes, though. I blame the system. If I'm an athlete and I can't make my Olympic team and I want the Olympic experience in another country because of my nationality, I have a parent who was born there, they welcome me on board because I'm better than their athlete and they want me to represent their country. You know, chances are I do it. Am I thinking, oh, am I depriving another athlete, so I'm not going to do it? I can't say I would think that way. I don't blame the athletes for doing it.
No, I can't. They're just
blame the system in place.
If the system is the problem, it's not the athletes. I agree 100%. So anyway, since we're
speaking of that, Kate, we didn't bring it up. What's with the Knicks with the White House? Do they, what's going on?
I think it's still up in the air. Brunson made some comments last week that, it'll be decided by the team whether they're going to go or not.
You want to know something? Keith?
Just go.
I am getting sick of this thing. It's got nothing to do with politics. It should have nothing to do with the guy in office.
I agree.
You know what I would be doing if I'm in charge now, any president, and now in the future and in the future after that, no matter who it is, it's not the person in office. No invitations anymore. No invitations. The heck with it. We're not inviting. It's not showing up because of views and this and that. And I think the athletes are depriving themselves of a great, great experience to visit the institution. Because the whole idea about the White House visit, it's a reward. It's a legacy type reward. They don't want to. The idea, if you got to think about it, if you're the Knicks, whether you're going or not, guess what? The invitation's never been made. I wouldn't make the darn invitation. I mean, the
person in the office is irrelevant, right?
Exactly.
The office of the President of the United States is inviting you to the White House. It doesn't matter who they are. I don't care who they are. You should be going.
It's a tradition. I mean, whatever. But
right. I would say the same thing if a Democrat was in there and they boycotted him. I would
care less who's in office.
Exactly.
I couldn't care less.
I agree.
They want to take a stand. Well, we don't like your policies on this, so we're not going to go. Well, then I wouldn't invite them. How do you like that? My new policy is I'm not inviting anyone. I'm not inviting any teams.
That could come to
fruition. Now the person in office could say, I'm going to pick and choose. If they're supporters of me, they're being invited. If they're not, I'm not inviting them. Think of how outraged people would be that.
That would be just as wrong as this.
Pick and choose according to whether they're being supported. Come on.
And it's really no different than what the players are doing, right? It's the same exact thing.
No different. The same exact thing. Okay.
Look at that.
Okay, well, we got that out.
I agree with him. So since we won't be here, because we're going to be off until the 20th, guys, just to throw that out there real quick.
Next 2 weeks. Yeah.
I'm going to predict right now that Argentina meets France and beats France for the World Cup title.
Yeah, I'll go the opposite. I'll predict that France beats Argentina.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
We'll butt a coffee.
Hey, Danny Fuller, I thought it's your birthday today, Danny. I was going to drop you a message, but I'll do it on the show instead.
Happy birthday, Danny.
To Danny Fuller.
Happy
yeah, and Danny Fuller, yeah. Oh, I didn't even read his comment. I just saw his name up there. Stop inviting the teams. Yeah, stop inviting them.
I agree.
Well, I'm sick of this, stuff going on. But happy birthday to Danny Fuller here.
Thank you for bringing that up because I hadn't even looked at my birthdays yet today. So happy birthday, Danny. And Danny's recovering from a little pacemaker being put in and doing very well. So we're happy Danny's on the mend. Good for him. So anyway, let's pivot because and I'm going to try to control my outrage because yesterday in Major League Baseball, another player was deprived at a chance of history being made because we don't get perfect games every day. We don't get guys with a chance to pitch perfect games. And with 92 pitches through 7 innings, Yuri Perez gets pulled by Clayton McCullough with the Marlins. This is just mind-boggling to me that you could and you're going to tell me that you're looking out for the kid's best interest, and that's horse crap of the largest nature.
No, they all looking out. No, wait. They all looking out for Perez's interest.
What they're doing, Jack, my point when I say that is overall, that mindset is what's hurting pitchers' arms anyway, because they don't let them pitch and they don't let them throw between starts and they don't let them throw more than 90 pitches. And that's why you have a plethora of injuries. Look at all the star pitchers that are hurt right now. This is an outrage, and it continues to be an outrage because it's happening it's happened like 3 times with no hitters this year already. And a perfect game is even more outrageous to me. And this has to stop because you're denying these kids. Nobody's going to remember who Yuri Perez is 50 years from now. You'd have a better chance if he had a perfect game.
Yeah, no, listen, I agree with you completely on that. I think it's a mindset that these managers have with a pitch count. What did they do? Pull it out of a hat? 90 pitches, 100 pitches. A pitcher should pitch until he's tired. If he's tired, if he's losing a little velocity, I mean, then you can take him out or whatever. But don't take him out because it's etched in stone. No, 90 pitches. He's got to go out. You're picking that number out of a hat, David.
100%.
That's
100% right.
If he's throwing extra pitches, you alter your rotation and you give him a day or 2 additional rest or something going forward. And I agree, 7 innings pitched, perfect game going on, and they're taking him out. And they nearly blew the lead taking him out.
Yeah, you almost blew the game besides.
But that's not even the point. It disgusts me. Now, if I'm going to play devil's advocate, I could say when Johan Santana pitched a no-hitter for the Mets, Terry Collins left him in a long time. Terry Collins was wincing. He wanted to take him out, but he couldn't make himself take Santana out while he had a no-hitter. Santana pitched a no-hitter and wound up being injured.
137 pitches he threw that day, if I remember right. 137. That's a lot different than 92. And Jack, you hit on the exact.
Anyway, but Perez would have. You have to consider the amount of pitches he would have thrown more. He would have wound up.
I don't know.
About 130 pitches or something.
Not necessarily.
Whatever. Had he gotten a perfect game, 120, whatever.
It could have been 105. There's no way to know. It could have been 3 pitch inning. We don't know.
I would have told Perez if I was the manager. You're not supposed to talk to a pitcher who has a perfect game. It's supposedly bad luck. I would have said like this, or I would have made up my mind. I would have had guys warming up in the bullpen. He would have obviously seen that, and he would know as soon as I give up a hit or a guy gets on base, even a walk, Keith, if he walked someone and he had a no-hitter in the 8th inning, lost a perfect game, I could justify taking him out. Okay,
Yep.
even with a no-hitter, and I know you're against that. But once you got no, because then the pitch count's getting up there. Perfect game. There's been only 24 in Major League history, and think of the fans booing. Perez praised this manager, great manager. This stuff. But listen, he's being a good guy. What's he supposed to say? The manager's an a-hole for taking me out.
He probably should have.
Or I would have liked to have had a chance to do this or that. And also maybe Perez's mindset was, wow, I pitched 7 perfect innings. I'm glad to leave on that high note. I mean,
possibly.
There's a difference, Keith, between 7 and 8 innings. 8 innings, if he had pulled them, I would have been outraged to no point. 7 innings, I'm upset by what he did.
Listen, you hit on one of the biggest fallacies in all this pitch count nonsense is that every 90 pitches isn't the same. And yesterday's a great example. Some 90 pitchers are easy peasy. You're there. You're not tired. You haven't worked hard.
Depending on how you feel.
Others, you've thrown 60 pitches and worked really hard. So it's not the same thing, you know. And Denny, again, we're never going back to those times where Nolan Ryan threw.
No, that
pitches.
Yeah, but the point is, but Danny, the majority of pitchers who threw a lot of pitches then didn't get injured, but some did. There was Sandy Koufax, who, if he were pitching today, would have had a longer career. They would have watched his arm a little more. And Billy Martin tended to burn out pitching staffs with the Oakland Athletics. I mean, there is something to protecting a pitcher's arm. There really is.
No, there's not. Nothing. All of them get hurt. Everybody. Garrett Cole, they protect. He blows out his twice. He's had Tommy John surgery.
This season. I mean, it happens.
They baby these guys from the minute they get them. And first of all, they're not ready to pitch more than 90 pitches, which is ridiculous. The first time they get in trouble, they're looking for somebody to come and take them out.
Keith, what gets me too, the people protecting them, like the managers, this and that, what do they know about kinesiology?
Nothing.
About the arm. You know what it reminds me of? What Larry Holmes, a former heavyweight champion, would talk about trainers. He'd say, well, I condition myself. What the trainers know? These guys are telling, well, go out there, run a few miles, do this, do that. What do they know about it? I mean, they know how to teach you boxing skill levels. They don't know anything about conditioning and this and that. A guy who
had a doctorate in kinesiology, Mike Marshall, pitched 106 games in a season. He threw 200 innings out of the bullpen, you know, because he knew how to take care of his arm. So what are you going to do? I have no idea what Steve's talking there.
Maker, I don't know.
He's apologizing for something he said during the Sunday show yesterday. I don't really know what it was. So don't worry.
Steve. Any worse than I said to you over the years.
Yeah, I don't hang on to these things, so don't worry about it.
You say you don't, Keith.
I don't. So if I did, I'd be at your house taking it up with you there. Actually, I wouldn't. You're a boxer. I wouldn't do that. Elsewhere in baseball, the Yankees lose their 13th and 17 games yesterday. Another awful performance to the Twins, no less, who they normally dominate. You know, the record with the Twins over the last bunch of years is like the Twins are like 46 and 120 against the Yankees in the last 20 years or so.
Thankfully, the Yankees have a cushion because the American League has been so bad with the wild card and all. So they're not, you know, it's not panic time at all. It's just like, when is this going to stop? They've been the worst team in baseball, you know, recently, or one of the worst. They've been one of the worst teams in baseball. How do you like that?
For the last few weeks, they have, yeah.
Yeah, they've been terrible. But you know, I thought about what you said with all the complaining, but let's be honest about it. This is with any team. You make a roster in the beginning of the season, and you look at your depth, and you say, is this acceptable? Is this a good roster? Do I have enough depth? And yeah, that was the case with the Yankees. They did everything the right way going into the season, even in the infield. You know, they had McMahon there, but as a backup, they had Rosario, Caballero. They could move around. that Volpe, short Jazz Chisholm was an all-star last year. He's obviously going to be a second baseman. Goldschmidt to back up Ben Rice. We thought Austin Wells was definitely acceptable to be their starting catcher. We weren't complaining about him in the beginning of the year. Let's be honest. But it's terrible. And the Yankees do have to find another catcher before the trade deadline. Even if you platoon them with Wells, do something. And look, the outfield was fine. They re-signed Bellinger, Grisham for the year. Judge, Stanton gets hurt. Yeah, listen, but they went about it the correct way, Keith. They had the depth.
I don't agree that they did. They spent $23 million on Grisham that they shouldn't have spent. I said that then.
Listen, for 1 year, they made that qualifying offer that I would not have made. Okay? But the point is, Grisham hasn't been the problem. He's actually been hitting a little lately.
He's hitting 220. Come on.
Well, he was hitting 170 before.
All right, so relatively speaking, he's been playing pretty well.
No, he hasn't been. But he hasn't been the major problem. Who else are you going to play ahead of him? You can't
exactly the problem, Jack. You just pointed out the problem. Who else am I going to play? That's the problem. There's nobody else. The kids haven't stepped up.
No, there is. If Judge were healthy, you have Judge, Bellinger. You could maybe play Dominguez in the outfield, but Spencer Jones, if one of them comes around. So you do have alternatives, but, Judge is out right now.
Again, you have to be prepared for the worst case scenarios, and the Yankees don't do it.
They have the backups. You got to perform.
They got very lucky that Goldschmidt decided not to retire and has played well, because you can't expect Goldschmidt to keep that pace up either, especially against right-handers. His bat is very slow. Watch him against really good right-handers, and he's not good up there. And they've been fortunate. He had 2 good months, and now he's coming back to earth. And
a lot of teams are having these problems. It's just what it is. And I'm going to tell you this: the Yankees might have, as terrible as they've been, and they've been awful, the 5th or 6th best record in baseball, with everything going bad now. But I think they did it the right way going into the season. The good thing is, players are going to be coming back, and and the guys they have got it straight now. That's basically it. I mean, oftentimes, Keith, the best moves you could make are the moves you don't make. It's stand pat, stay the course. That's what the Yankees have to do. Stay the course. If you can pick up an experienced catch at the trade deadline, you do it. If you can pick up a really effective middle reliever, you do it. You do tweak the team at the trade deadline, absolutely. Okay, and if you could pick up an impact player, true impact player, you see what you have to give up for him at the trade deadline. But you don't want to rent a player. You're not going to give up a good prospect even for Skubal.
No, I'm not. Skubal's out of the question for sure. But they probably they got to improve. Catcher's got to be the number one. Target.
Sometimes you look at the Mets.
But there are no catchers either. There's no catchers out there. Really, who's available? Nobody. Catching stinks as a rule around the league anyway. So you're not going to put that position a lot.
If some way, somehow, KC would move on from a guy like Salvador Perez, who's at the end of his career but could still be effective. But it's what it is. And moving Ben Rice, the catcher, I don't like Ben Rice as a long-term solution there. But, bottom line is Austin Wells has to hit. He has to hit. He's got to – sometimes you're stuck with a guy. He's got to do it himself. And
I'm so tired of your boy, Aaron Boone. Every game I got to listen about the great leadership Austin Wells brings after another 0 for 4. Please, he can't hit 150. I don't care about his leadership if he's hitting 150. Danny, as far as the trade deadline, it could be crazy or it could be nothing because there's so many teams that are around the playoff bubble. I'm not sure who's going to trade who. I don't know. You can't figure out.
I'm going to tell you, there are going to be a couple of these teams that haven't been winning that are still technically in the wild card race who are going to take off and really, really play well the rest of the year.
That's what. And if enough teams think that they're that team, then they're not going to move anybody. That's my point. So where the sellers going to come from?
Well, they're looking to see the implications. Can they still make a run at it? Like I mentioned Scoopel a while ago. If the Tigers feel they can get a wild card spot with Scoopel, they might just play it out. But they're certainly not going to, sign them.
There's like 6 teams in all of baseball that you can say they're done. They can't. Even then, they could make an argument that they're not out of it mathematically by far. But 6 teams. Every other team has a chance at a wild card outside of 6 teams.
I mean, even the worst teams are not ridiculously far back. I mean, they're not ridiculously far back. They could go on a big run, and
this is why I say there could be very few sellers at the trade deadline because teams are going to fool themselves into thinking they're real contenders because they're within the wild card, where they got no chance to win a world championship. You're going to go out the first round of the wild card, even if you get there. So I don't know who's going to.
You don't know that the playoffs are unpredictable in baseball, very, very unpredictable.
Well, I'm not mortgaging my future to get the last wild card spot in the American League if I'm 10 games under 500.
No, you're not going to give up your best prospects.
No. So you'll see. I will have a wonderful time in Alaska. I'm getting ready to go tomorrow.
I mean, are they going to have the games on? Does Alaska have any major
games?
sports?
I can watch the games on my iPad. Yeah. We'll be good. Don't worry. I watched the World Series on a cruise. I've watched the Super Bowl on a cruise. I've never missed anything. So it's all there, Jack. It's like being home, surrounded by water. Now I'll be surrounded by glaciers. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Let's move on. NBA. LeBron's still in the news. Last week when we talked, it seemed like he was getting ready to go to Cleveland or Golden State, and now Golden State seems to be out. Miami's back in. Sixers are in. Interestingly, I don't know if you caught this. Rich Paul, who's LeBron's agent, said if the Knicks hadn't won a championship, there would be no list. The Knicks would have LeBron next year. If the Knicks haven't commented, obviously, but there would be no list. I don't know where he's going. I thought Cleveland was really going to be the place. I think he's waiting. I heard of an interesting theory yesterday that he's waiting for Cleveland to see what they do at Harden and if they bring in a couple other players who can play some defense, and he may go back home. But if they don't do that, he's not going there.
I had a discussion with a friend of mine yesterday. My own feeling is, at this point, if you're asking me to place a bet where LeBron is going to wind up, I would say Philadelphia. Now, what Rich Paul said about the Knicks, I believe him 100%.
I do too. I
believe he shouldn't have said it.
No,
look, it's not a good look, but I think it slipped out because had the Knicks gotten eliminated, let's say by the Cleveland Cavaliers, and then the Cavs lost in the finals, let's say, I think LeBron does come to Madison Square Garden. I think it would have been off the charts.
I'd agree.
Knicks and him trying to get the Knicks to a championship, but that's off the table now. Because nothing good could come of LeBron playing for the Knicks if they don't repeat his NBA championship as champions. LeBron's going to get some of the blame by all these naive people. Well, we didn't win it with LeBron. He hurt us. Wait, he'd have to hear that stupidity. It would be ridiculous talk. But we have a lot of ridiculous, dumb people, Keith, who talk like that.
Certainly are.
Now he's looking. He wants to win, LeBron, but he wants to win and also live at a place he's comfortable at. And the places he's comfortable at are LA with the Lakers, but he's not going to play for them, obviously. He left them. Golden State, but they're long in the tooth. He doesn't feel he's going to win there, and I don't blame him. He's not. There's Miami. But there's some hard feelings maybe with what went down. In Miami, still is a little iffy. They got Giannis, they got Bam, Wiggins, but they can win. They're still in the picture. Now there's Cleveland that's going home. They have the pieces, but do they have enough? Donovan Mitchell's appealing, Mobley, Allen. I don't know how he feels about playing with Harden, but if they can make a good move or two more, and then LeBron sees, I can get over the top with these guys. But Philadelphia is ready. What a spot for him. I don't want to hear Embiid's always hurt. You're going to the Sixers under the assumption Embiid is going to stay healthy. And keep this in mind if you're Embiid. Embiid hasn't had motivation for a while because he's been on a team that wasn't a threat to win the NBA title. But Embiid will show up if LeBron is there. Everyone shows up.
If he's healthy.
Embiid, Maxey, Jaylen Brown, Edgecombe. Oh, man, you got to go there if you're LeBron if you want to win. Or go to San Antonio.
Well, I've talked forever that San Antonio is the best fit. I don't think it's going to happen. But I think the best fits are the 76ers are a great fit. But Embiid's got to stay healthy, and he's been that.
San Antonio.
LeBron's seen that movie before with Davis, so I'm not sure that he wants to go with a guy who's iffy to play, half the season.
Wait. Who are we talking about?
I'm talking about LeBron going to 76ers. He's seen that movie with Embiid getting hurt all the time. He had that with Davis in LA.
I'm going to tell you something, Keith. Even if Embiid, let's say hypothetically, gets hurt, that team might still be able to win without Embiid. You got Jaylen Brown. You got Maxey. What
Jaylen Brown's not carrying anybody to a championship. Jaylen Brown's a nice player. He's not leading anybody to a championship on his own. If Embiid's not there, they're not winning.
Got Maxey and LeBron and Edgecombe now. Embiid will be there, Keith. Embiid is going nowhere. He's going to be there. And
I didn't say he was going anywhere.
The best players in the NBA.
Jack, you make it seem like it's a foregone conclusion that he'll play 70 games, and that's not the case. He'd be lucky. He may play 70. He might play 30.
As long as he's around for the playoffs and healthy and well, they'll manage him that way.
That's fair. Again, I think it's a good fit, assuming Embiid is healthy. It's a great fit.
Assuming anyone is healthy, Keith. I mean, I don't want to hear that. Well, you can't count on Embiid, this and that. You got to count on him. Then let the Sixers get rid of him. What team in their right mind wouldn't take Embiid? Give me a break.
The Knicks wouldn't take him. I wouldn't take him now. Why would you take him?
Nick, are you kidding? The Knicks wouldn't take him?
No. Why would you break up that chemistry for a guy who might play 40 games and not be around for the playoffs? That's too much of a gamble. A team that's not winning or hasn't won, it might take a chance on him changing their dynamic for sure. But listen, he's staying in Philadelphia, so it doesn't matter. I think they're a good fit, assuming Embiid's healthy. I think that
San Antonio,
San Antonio's the best fit.
Shove to me. If I'm LeBron, I go to San Antonio. I think now that I think of it, Philly is a great fit. That's why I think he's going. Because San Antonio has all these young players who are going to get better. And the LeBron is the one veteran presence they need. I know they got Tobias Harris, but don't even compare Tobias Harris to LeBron, even at this stage.
No, not even close.
And LeBron would be a lead on that team as long as Wemby didn't have an attitude. I think, and Wemby, I think, is liked by his teammates, so he'll be okay. And I think LeBron can, working with a young guy like Dylan Harper, who's going to be a breakout star, Castle, and the whole crew. And they're so close now, San Antonio. And now no one will criticize LeBron for trying to steal a championship because the Sixers and OKC are considered to have as good a chance of winning the NBA championship as the Spurs, people's minds. LeBron for going to San Antonio.
LeBron's done enough and won enough that he's not. He wants to win. That's not chasing a championship. He brings People argue that he goes places where he can win. I could make an argument that he brings championships with him because he goes places and then they win. So, again, I think you can make argument both ways. San Antonio's a great fit. I think the T-Wolves are a great fit, but he's never going.
They're going to win an NBA championship, the T-Wolves with LeBron. Won't happen.
I don't think he's
won't happen. No. they're not. They wouldn't be a threat to win the NBA title. Even you add LeBron onto it. I know they got Jay Morant, Anthony Edwards, and you add LeBron. Just wouldn't happen.
Fair. Linda, hello. Good to have you
Hey,
with
Linda, how you doing, Linda?
Jack and I were just talking about you this morning. Glad you're doing well, Linda. Thank you for the wishes. We'll have a lot of fun. Elsewhere in the NBA, we haven't talked about the fact that we knew the Knicks were going to move on from Mitchell Robinson. He signs with the Celtics. Personally, I'm okay with Andre Drummond coming in here. To me, he's the same player as Mitchell.
Not as good.
You don't think? I think he is. And I think he's got a little more offensive potential than.
You're thinking of what Drummond used to be.
I understand. If I look at his numbers now, I think they compare favorably with Mitchell Robinson.
I can still pick rebounds, Drummond. Drummond had to play for the 76ers a lot more minutes than anticipated last year. But Drummond can help. But if Karl Anthony Towns is getting into major foul trouble and they got to count on Drummond for a lot of minutes, it could be a problem. It could be a defensive liability despite, being good off the board.
He played 19 minutes a game last year. If they can get 19 to 20 minutes is all I want out of him, right? So Towns has got to stay out of trouble, and for the most part. I think it's basically a wash in my mind. I mean, I've never been the biggest Mitch Robinson fan anyway. I think it maybe helps the Celtics more than it hurts the Knicks.
Mitch Robinson was able to make foul shots. If he wasn't such a dreadful foul shooter, he could be a legitimate starting center in the league. Legitimately good. And
that's a real problem, by the way, because you can't have a guy like that on the court.
Compare him to a guy like Hartenstein, who used to be a Knick, who went to OKC. Is Hartenstein, if you eliminate the foul shooting equation, is he really better than Mitch Robinson? I can't say he is.
I liked Hartenstein. I didn't like seeing him.
I like him a lot too, but if Mitch Robinson was an average foul shooter, let's say, Hartenstein wouldn't be better, I don't think. You could say it's close if you want, but the point is, how do you keep Mitch Robinson on the floor where a guy, can't make foul shots? I mean, it's awful.
I agree, and we'll see how that plays out. One other thing in the NBA, Patrick Ewing has signed a contract to be an assistant coach with the Wizards, and to me, this is a travesty. Ewing's been like an ambassador or whatever his title was with the Knicks the last few years. You look on the sideline at all the coaches. I mean, they have to fill up the whole back row behind the bench with coaches. You can't find a job for Patrick Ewing with the Knicks. Patrick Ewing shouldn't be working.
I see your point, Keith. I do. But number one, Ewing did have a job with the Knicks. He was like an ambassador. They brought him back into the fold. It made him feel like a major part of the Knicks family again. We'd always see him around. He was part of the alumni. So kudos to James Dolan for doing that. As far as being on the coaching staff, let's be honest about it. It may have been in a token role. You want just what Ewing gets sitting at the end of the bench. Mike Brown has a staff.
I understand.
And I always wondered Mike Brown's relationship with Rick Brunson. He had to have Rick Brunson on his staff because of Jalen Brunson.
He's become a major part of that coaching staff, I think. Brunson.
Rick Brunson.
Yeah, he has. He's become
but with Thibodeau, he was genuinely a major part of it because of his relationship with Thibodeau. But with Mike Brown and Rick Brunson, maybe they got a great relationship. I don't know. Maybe it's the type of thing where Mike Brown is walking on eggshells. Well, I got to handle Rick Brunson with care because I don't want to lose Jalen, in that sense.
Look at focusing on Ewing. You don't think him sitting on that bench and talking in Towns' ear and whatever other centers are on this roster would be helpful? I think it would.
I do think it would be helpful, especially you have them work with the centers. Yeah, absolutely.
That could be your job.
I think it would have been, but don't tell me it didn't cross anyone's mind beforehand.
Yeah,
but you also don't need this if you're Mike Brown. Sometimes you don't need someone looking over your shoulder. In this sense, that if the Knicks are slumping a little bit, we're going to see newspaper things. Oh, give Patrick Ewing a chance to be the coach or whatever.
He is not. He's not a threat to be a head coach in the NBA.
No one's a threat to Mike Brown for a year and a half. But fans are fickle. They're not going to call for him to get fired next year, no matter what, because he's got the championship. But by the following season, you know, you hear things. And Mike Brown's a darn good coach. He has a resume. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen it. We all would have liked to have seen Ewing on the bench. But listen, it's what it is. I'll tell you this much, though. Okay? If Jeff Van Gundy would have gotten a head coaching job for the Orlando Magic and he did interview for that, Ewing would have been on his coaching staff.
That's fair. I think he would be.
The job of Washington, but you hate to see Ewing trying to beat the Knicks now.
I don't think him being a threat at any point in time to be a head coach or take over if any team is slumping. His time to be a head coach in the NBA is long past, and when he was a head coach in college, it went miserably. So I don't think he's any.
They did have one good year where they won the Big East.
Big East tournament. They were terrible in regular season. They got hot for 4 days. And
listen. You know, I hate to say this because he seems like a good guy, Patrick Ewing, but he's not always the sharpest in the way he speaks. And I mean it like this. When he was an assistant coach with the Orlando Magic and they got in the finals, he says, finally, when I get my ring, this is going to shut people up who's saying I never won a ring. They're talking about as a player, and he's making a comparison like an assistant coach. Yeah, they're not talking about the physical ring on your finger, Patrick. They're talking about how symbolic it is. And I hated to hear him talk like that because he didn't sound like he was like sharp, like he was with it. And and he's a beloved Nick, you know.
You got to be able to communicate. He knows the game, and he probably could coach, and maybe.
And he's not a good communicator. He's going to help Anthony Davis, I'm sure.
He is.
Working with Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis seems to be a good, mild-mannered guy, and have Ewing work with him. That'll be a nice fit at Washington.
That's my point. He would have been a good fit here, working with Cat and working with you.
It might be this is better for Ewing. Because if he's working on as an assistant coach and they're looking to at any point make a coaching change, you never know. He has linked to the area. Georgetown is in the Washington area. You go. And
he's probably got a better chance. He's got a better chance of being a coach of the Wizards than he would ever have of being coach of the Knicks. I will agree with that.
If a change was ever made, of course.
Agreed. Real quick, because I'd be remiss not to mention this. Since Linda, I hope you're still listening, because one of Mac's favorite tennis player that I'm aware of, Coco Gauff, who's only ranked seeded seventh in this Wimbledon tournament, has moved on to the quarterfinals, and this is wide open for her to win this because most of the top seeds are out. The highest seed left is a fourth seed. There's no reason to think Coco Gauff can't win this tournament.
Yeah, Coco Gauff could become, if she does win this tournament, the face of women's tennis. It would be her third major tournament. She won the French Open, won the U.S. Open, has never won Wimbledon before. Wimbledon is the single most prestigious tournament, even though we call it the Big Four, because of the tradition Wimbledon has. Like, you know, you make a comparison, Wimbledon and the other tournaments. It's like the Boston Marathon and the New York City Marathon. The New York City Marathon is bigger than the Boston Marathon, a lot bigger, but the Boston Marathon is more prestigious. Same with tennis. Wimbledon is the single most prestigious tennis tournament.
I would agree. By the way, on tennis, we were talking some tennis last week, and we brought up Chrissy and Martina Navratilova. There's a great documentary on Netflix right now, Chris and Martina, the final set. It's really, really good. If you haven't seen it, I'd watch it. They both had their battles with cancer, and it followed them through their treatments, and they also reminisced about their past history. It's really, really good. If you haven't seen it, catch it. Even if you're not a tennis fan, I think people will enjoy it.
Sure.
Boxing. Any boxing before we wrap it up today, Jack? You got.
We have Blood Fist tonight, and the usual talk. You know, they had a summit, all the major promoters, like, let's get along. But Eddie Hearn, the matchroom boss, said it best. Yeah, we'll all shake hands and be buddies. And then when we leave 4 hours later, we'll be feuding again. That's the truth of the matter.
It is the truth. It's almost always
the sport sometimes is as good as the fights in the ring itself. Boxing's all about personalities in this day and age, unfortunately. That's what big fights are made on, personalities, not so much on accomplishment, what they can do in the ring.
And you got the biggest personality I know, Jack.
Like you and I, Keith. I mean, I'm Mac and myself. We maybe didn't talk sports as logical as you and I, but the way we went at it with one another, people, got a big buzz out of that.
Well, I try to spar with you once in a while.
A bigger buzz than me and you, to see these two guys arguing. You're too much of a peacemaker, Keith.
I try to spar once in a while.
Calming things down, Mac inflamed things with me a little more. Or I inflamed it with him, I should say.
It's all good. And check Jack and Frank Laterzo out tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern on Glove Fist. And guys, we'll be off. Just a quick reminder, we'll be off. This show will be off on hiatus until July 20th. We'll be back live on the morning of July 20th. I'll be away until then. And we wish you guys have a great time until then. Stay safe, stay healthy, enjoy the rest of the World Cup, enjoy the boxing, whatever we got going on here. And we'll catch you in a couple of weeks.
Have a great vacation, Keith.
I absolutely will. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Jack.